Ihsan and Sa'ah. The Prophet spoke or was questioned about four matters. Tell me, what is Iman, what is Islam, what is Ihsan, and tell me when the moment will be. Tell me when the moment will be. Those four are primal in our religion. Not just knowing about what your faith is, knowing the proximity of the final moment, how close you are to the final moment. The first is the appearance of the Mahdi, will be from the family of the Prophet. He will appear in a time, and we're going to have to run through this very, very quickly. He will appear in a time of severe persecution and tribulation in the Ummah. The Prophet said, he will appear in a time, 7 years of persecution and tribulation for this Ummah, the likes of which this Ummah has never witnessed before. Perhaps we're living in those terms. The likes of which this Ummah has never experienced before. And you can say that safely. What's happening now is something that the Ummah has never witnessed before. The massacre, the persecution that's happening in this Ummah now, this Ummah has never witnessed the likes of this before. There was a time when one Muslim woman was captured by sailors, taken to Rome, and she cries out, "Wa Mu'tasim." She's been molested, she's been harmed, so she just calls out Mu'tasim, who's the name of the Khalifa, help me. They laugh at her. But word eventually gets back to Mu'tasim in Baghdad. When he hears this one Muslim woman captured, he sends a letter from Abdullah Mu'tasim to the dog of Rome. To the dog of Rome. That's when there was Izzah, that's when there was honor. To the dog of Rome. If you do not release that woman, I will send an army, the beginning of which is in Rome and the end of which is in Baghdad. She's released immediately. That was a different time. That was a very different time. These are times the likes of which have never been known before in the Ummah. And that's a sign of the coming of the very end. That's a precursor to the coming of the Mahdi. The Mahdi is the first Khalifa that the Prophet foretold. Like people are talking about reviving the Khilafah, it's not your business. The Prophet already told us who's going to do it. He's already told you who's going to do it, so you don't need to worry about it. You just worry about which side you're going to be on. You can talk all you like. When it comes down to the crunch, when you've got that side, and you've got people of absolute kufr and absolute iman, which side are you going to be on? At that point, there's no in-betweens. There's no nifaq. And when it comes to the crunch, there's no hypocrisy. You're either going to be on that side or on this side. As somebody said not so long ago. Two camps, you've got to choose which side you want to be on. It requires people of absolute faith. Your concern is not, I've got to reestablish the Khilafah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will sort that out. Why do we say that? Because the Prophet told us that. He told us exactly what's going to happen. Rationally we say, no, it is our job to do, we should work on it. So yes, rationally we say that, but the Prophet told us something totally different. He told us that there will be a rightly guided caliphate for as long as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. In another hadith said 30 years, it was finished with Sayyidina Imam Hassan, 30 years. There were not 4 rightly guided caliphs, there was 5. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali and Hassan. Hassan was as short as 6 months, and then he gave up the post in order to stop fitna arising in the Ummah. 5 rightly guided Khalifa. Finished with Hassan. Then the Prophet said, after that there will be monarchs, kings, and we had the Ottoman, we had the Umayyad Empire, then we had the Abbasid Empire, and then we had the Ottoman Empire. That lasted for centuries. Then it finished over 100 years ago, about 100 years ago. And then what? Then the Prophet said there will be tyrants, Jababira, and we're living in the time of the times, perhaps at the very end of the time of the tyrants. Then what? Then the Prophet said then you will have Khulafa. Then you will have rightly guided caliphs, exactly on the same way as the original. When he gave the details, the first of them will be Al-Imam al-Muntadhar, the awaited Imam al-Mahdi, whose name is Muhammad, his father's name is Abdullah, he's from Medina. He will come to Mecca after they've been persecuted. Ahl al-Bayt, the family of the Prophet will be persecuted in Medina. He flees from there, he goes to Mecca. The Abdal, the awliya, will recognize him, they'll force him to take a pledge of allegiance. They'll force him, at that point he's the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No further issue, no argument. He's the Khalifa and he's the first that will come. When he comes, many wars will take place. Many wars will take place, but eventually he will bring stability to this ummah. And then, what will happen after that? The Imam al-Mahdi will reign for a period of time. But his initial reign in the hadith mentions 7 years, and he will bring justice equal to the time of persecution that went before. The degree of persecution that the believers suffered before, that's the degree of justice that they will have in the time of Imam al-Mahdi. The same day Imam al-Mahdi will come, there will be nobody left, no believer left who will be hungry and who will be poor. The people who are going out to give out zakat, nobody left to give it to. Complete justice in the time of Imam al-Mahdi. What happens after that? That begins to bother the Antichrist. The Prophet says the Antichrist will become angry at a certain point. Why does he become angry? Because he sees all, after unleashing, beginning with an empire, a Dajjalic empire that begins to unleash evil on the earth, which has already begun. When Imam Mahdi comes, he stems the tide and he brings back justice. That's what angers the Antichrist. And because of that, although he's been on the earth, he will make an appearance at that point. He will finally come out. That's the second, well, after even the first one, the precursor. The first major sign is the coming of the Dajjal. The Dajjal is already on the earth. He's already on the earth. And the Antichrist, the worst fitna that humanity has ever faced. The Prophet spoke about it. Every single prophet warned about it. Every single prophet warned about it, about the tribulation. When he comes, it's the likes of which nobody... And the only protection you have from that is Surah Al-Kahf. And again, that's something every single day. Read 10 verses, first 10 verses, last 10 verses. Or at the very least, read 3 verses Surah Al-Kahf. Read Surah Al-Kahf. So that when he comes, you'll be on the right side. Because believe me, whatever you say now, that's not going to mean anything at that point. When you see the problems that you see now on planet Earth, that's nothing that's going to pale into insignificance into what you're going to see when the Antichrist comes.
Is he called the Antichrist in Islam?
Al-Masih al-Dajjal, that's the Antichrist.
It's the same translation, Antichrist.
Yeah, because you have 2 phrases here. You have Al-Masih and you have Al-Masih. Ha and Kha. Al-Masih is the one who's anointed the Christ. Al-Masih, the one who's disfigured, the Antichrist, the exact reverse of the Christ.
Why is it significance as Antichrist?
The significance is that, the significance to that is that why does Isa come down to kill him? Why not Prophet Muhammad? Doesn't, some Christians come say that indicates superiority. Say no, first of all, he comes back as a Khalifa of Muhammad. Although he's Nabi Rasul, he comes working through the Sharia of Muhammad. Why? Because Al-Masih was completely detached from the world. He had no material existence whatsoever. He owned absolutely nothing, no attachment to this world. Al-Masih, Al-Dajjal, calls to the world, pulls apart, exact opposite, like chalk and cheese. It's the opposite, the exact opposite that comes to take out the opposite. To take out the one who calls to the dunya, the one who calls completely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's because they're exact opposites. You can say, isn't the Prophet and his nature is more than Isa Islam? And we said that's the only nature of Isa Islam. He didn't have a world existing. Prophet he ruled the state in Medina. He was a king as well, he was a leader. Masih had none of that. He will have that when he comes the second time. His is a completely otherworldly existence. His is a completely worldly existence. The exact opposites.
Will he get married to him?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he'll get married, yeah. He'll have children as well.
Is there anything to say that the Mahdi's on earth at the moment?
Oh yeah. Why do you need to know? Just
like,
a passing thought.
Is there a certain science to say that the Mahdi's, pre-Mahdi's coming out?
What we know for definite, the Dajjal's on the earth. We know that for definite.
So how do we know that?
I'm not the Dajjal. That's not me. I've got 2 eyes. The Antichrist, according to the hadith that's mentioned in Sahih Muslim, Ad-Dajjal, Tamim ad-Dari, he mentions that he was a Christian, and there was a group of Christian sailors. They went on a ship, they sailed westwards, away from Arabia. It takes you where? Down these sides. Westward, away from Arabia. Which takes you where? Mediterranean, going on where? Allah, where they stopped, where the ship, where the boat. So eventually they came across an island. Which island? We're on an island, right? Allah. He came on an island, he came across an island, and he said, on that island, he said, there's a jassasa like a beast, and the beast inside just led them somewhere, took them to a monastery, Christian island, took them to a monastery. In the monastery, they saw a creature that was chained up, and the creature turned out to be the Antichrist. He asked certain questions about the coming of the final message, certain signs, and so on. And then he informed them that who he was, and informed them that his release was imminent. His release was imminent. Perhaps he's already been released. But there's another interesting character called Ibn Sayyad. In the lifetime of the Prophet, there was an individual, Jewish, and the Antichrist will be Jew. His father and mother are Jews, born to a Jewish parents. Ibn Sayyad was in Medina at the time of the Prophet. Many Sahaba were convinced that he was the Antichrist, he was the Dajjal. He had all the description, even down to the eye. Even down to the eye, everything about him was Dajjal. And even the Prophet wasn't completely sure, is he the Dajjal? Like he went to him, he started asking him some questions. He started asking Ibn Sayyad, this Jewish individual who looked an exact replica of the Dajjal. And the way he was, everything about him was Dajjal. But there's a question that can be raised. Dajjal can't enter into Medina. That's when he comes. That's when he unleashes his havoc on earth. Prior to that, there's nothing to indicate. It says at the end times, he can't enter into Medina. Medina will be protected by angels, and he won't be able to enter. But it's possible he could have been there before. So now you have something, the ulama raise an issue. If he's on the island, what's he doing in Medina? And the Prophet did not outright say that he wasn't the Dajjal. Because Sayyidina Umar, that some Sahaba said, let us go and kill him. What did the Prophet say? He said, إِن يَكُنْهُ فَلَنْ يُسَلَّطَ عَلَيْهِ. He said, if it is him, and as if he wasn't totally convinced it was him, if it is him, you will have no authority over him. Meaning what? You're not the one who's going to kill him. It's Isa who's going to kill him. But there the Prophet did not outright. And many Sahaba after swore, they swore an oath, he was the Antichrist. He was the Dajjal. The ulama, they combined the two and said, no, we've got the hadith of Sahih Muslim says that he's on an island, in the western part of the earth. But then you've also got this, is it perhaps the shaitan took on exactly the exact replica of him and came to try and confuse the believers. Perhaps that's what happened there, that Iblis took on his form. Iblis took on his form and came in the form of the Antichrist, exact replica of the Antichrist. And there's more, but we're going to have to finish for that. This is the last session, right? This is the last session. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to go on to what happened in the Day of Judgment. Perhaps another time. There's going to be a course that's running in Manchester, which is going to start around mid-end of September. And one of myself and Sheikh Haroon Hanif will be teaching on that, and other teachers will be on that course. And part of that is Aqida. There will be foundational course on fiqh, on Aqida, and on spirituality, on law, on belief, law, and spirituality, along with other subjects. Like the course will involve three aspects. One is basic reading of Quran, memorizing the surahs for those who don't know, memorizing the du'as. Second aspect is elementary study of Islamic science, so an introduction into belief. And because we didn't get a chance to finish that, perhaps we'll be finished there. And likewise, an introduction into law, some basic aspects of purity and prayer. And likewise, a basic introduction into spirituality, like the sins of the limbs and sins of the heart. And then myself, I'll be teaching once a month tafsir of the last 10 surahs of the Quran, and Sheikh Ibrahim will do tafsir of 10 primal hadith within Islam. So that course will begin around the end of September, and it will be advertised close to the time. So although we've not been able to finish it, perhaps it'll be finished at that time. Any last questions?
You know what?